Alrighty, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Time Out with Doc and Caveman. As always, you are here with Dr. Fantasy and my co-host, the Fantasy Caveman. We are at team number 3 now in our 2021-22 team previews. We are going to be discussing the Orlando Magic today. But before we start, I just want to make sure that everybody subscribes to our YouTube channel and wherever you listen to podcasts. You'll get notified anytime we post any NBA content. So stay tuned for more episodes in the future. With that, let's get rolling with the Orlando Magic. Last season, they were 21-51, which was the second worst record in the Eastern Conference under Steve Clifford. This offseason, they parted ways with Steve Clifford and hired Mavericks assistant Jamal Mosley. So we'll talk a little bit about that later on. They scored the second fewest points in the league last year, so they were pretty terrible offensively. Defensively, not much better, 22nd in points allowed, so bottom third of the league there. A lot of trades here. This is a team that's rebuilding, obviously, and they made that very clear, getting rid of Evan Fournier and Nikola Vukovic to the Bulls and then Aaron Gordon to the Nuggets. Once again, similar to the Rockets, there's only one guy that played more than 48 games, and that was Dwayne Bacon. So
not even like no offense to Dwayne Bacon, but it's not even like with the Rockets. You're like, okay, Jay Sean Tate is a name, that a decent amount of people should recognize and actually did like good. Like Dwayne Bacon, like okay, he exists.
He averaged 10 points, and he actually got a contract today. He got a decent deal with the New York Knicks today, so that's going to be added. I didn't have it in my notes before when I was preparing earlier, but they did lose Dwayne Bacon, so nobody on their roster played above 48 games for them last season. That's going to be on the roster this season. So a lot of turnover there. And then one last thing I wanted to mention, Markelle Fultz, another lost season for him. And Jonathan Isaac tore his ACL in the bubble. People forget about Jonathan Isaac, but he's still hanging around. He's still there. And I want to talk about him, but he missed all of last season. So two young promising players there, especially Markelle Fultz. Very disappointing for him after he only played 8 games, but he did show some promise compared to what he had previously shown in those 8 games. So point leaders and their leaders last season, very unexciting. Vukovic at 24.5 points. Nobody even worth noting after that, for being honest. Evan Fournier and some of the other guys that departed average over 14 points. Vukovic with 11.8 rebounds. Wendell Carter with 8.8 rebounds. Assists-wise, Markelle Fultz technically led the team, but only played 8 games. Behind that, yes, Michael Carter-Williams at 4.2 assists. Yeah, there you go. He technically led the team. You knew it had to come up, and there it is. Cole Anthony behind him at 4.1. And then steals, Chuma okay, 1.1. And then Mo Bamba led the team in blocks with 1.3. So, did anybody stand out here?
I mean, besides Carter Williams?
Yes, besides Michael Carter Williams.
It's tough with them because we kind of mentioned it with the Rock. I think even so more. I don't think anybody was hit by the injury bug more than the Orlando Magic were that season. Mm-hmm. It was bad. I mean, you mentioned Markelle Fultz, Cole Anthony as well. They lost. Even my boy Carter Williams missed a decent chunk of time as well. So that is literally their 3-point guards all missed good chunks of time last season. But you mentioned Markelle Fultz. I mean, he literally dug his career out of the gutter, mm-hmm. and has been able to revive it to a point where, not saying the bottom line is he's never going to live up to that number 1 pick potential. I'm sorry. I don't think it's going to happen. But he has revived it to a point where I think he could have a very solid career as a solid starting point guard in this league. I don't see that necessarily with the Orlando Magic. I think this is more of a he's trying to rebuild some of his value. But I mean, other than him, I mean, not really. I mean, Cole Anthony showed flashes, but again, we didn't really get to see the entirety of what Cole Anthony got to do because he got hurt as well. I mean, yeah, I mean, Wendell Carter looked decent when he came over from Chicago, but again, he got over there late, small sample size with him. So yeah, not really a bunch that like stands out because, like you mentioned, like nobody really played a huge chunk of games for him, so it's kind of hard to judge and make it. Who impressed overall? I mean, to be honest, it'd be difficult for you to say anyone really impressed because there wasn't enough sample size to really judge.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the theme. Markelle Fult you talked about was disappointing when he went down, but I was very much so disappointed with Cole Anthony because when he went down, he was really starting to hit a stride. He started 34 games. Over those 34 games, he averaged almost 17 points. So he was really starting to put it to get 5 assists and 5 rebounds. So he actually was playing really well and he started off really slow, but over the last 10, 15 games that he played, he was starting to look like a player who could, he was a top rated recruit coming out of high school. I think he was in the top 5, maybe even top 3. He was really high up and highly recruited. So he started to show flashes of that potential that a lot of people think he has. So it's still there. He'll be ready to go for this season, but that was definitely disappointing. So let's talk about their draft and what they've done so far this offseason, which has been very unexciting thus far. In the draft, they took Jalen Suggs 4th overall and Franz Wagner 8th overall. Those were the only 2 picks they made the entire night. So 2 top 10, top 8 picks, and they were done for the night. One thing, I was reading an interview with their general manager. I really like what they're doing, actually, and what they're scouting and what they're looking for. They're looking for versatile hustlers. That's legitimately what their GM said. So I think that in the future, this is a team that is going to be really fun to watch. And I'm interested to see what Jamal Mosley can do with these young. They're a very defensive-minded team. I think there's still a lot of question marks offensively, which we'll talk about. But Jalen Suggs and Wagner give you a lot of versatility on the defensive side of the ball. Suggs looked like a legitimate leader and a guy that could have star potential in this league. So high character, hustling, good defenders. But the question is going to be, can they put it together offensively? So what do you think of those 2 picks in the top 8 there?
I mean, yeah, starting off, I don't know who the Magic upset in the Kings front office, but everybody and their mama assumed Wagner was going to the Kings.
Yeah.
Everyone, all the draft experts, everybody outside of Orlando in that front office thought that Wagner was going to the Kings. But I like the pick for him. You mentioned kind of what they're doing is that defensive hustle, kind of old school mindset. And I think it has the potential to work, but that's why I like the Jalen Suggs pick too with what they're kind of going for. But like I said, my biggest concern is literally like where is their consistent offense in the conference?
Yeah.
If you look at the team, we'll go over. We'll kind of go over the roster in a little bit. I don't. Where is it gonna? You mean to tell me that you're gonna rely on? Don't know if Jalen Suggs is ready to be an offensive force day one. You're telling me Cole? Honestly, if we're being honest, their top offensive option next season, if I'm looking at this team, might be Cole Anthony. And that's you like Cole Anthony. I kind of like Cole Anthony, but that's rough. That's a lot. that. I mean,
Yeah. Oh no, I agree. This could be the case similar. Cole Anthony, I can tell you right now, is going to be a guy I target in fantasy a lot, and it's the same reason I targeted Jeremy Grant everywhere last year. He's going to have to put up numbers, honestly, because who else are they relying on at this point? So Cole Anthony is arguably, even if Fultz is healthy and Jonathan Isaac is healthy, I mean those aren't top offensive threats. So I don't know. Gary Harris maybe is their top offensive weapon. But either way, it's rough. Yeah, that's going to be the rough part. And there's a lot of depth here, but you have to question how high of quality that depth is if we're being honest about it. So let's go through their depth chart. In the backcourt, if they're healthy, they have a lot of options, to put it nicely, between Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, Gary Harris, Markelle Fultz, RJ Hampton's there, Terrence Ross, Michael Carter Williams. Those are a lot of pretty solid names. So when you look at it in the backcourt, they're pretty set at this point. And I think Jonathan Isaac is listed currently as their 3. And it looks like he should be ready for the beginning of the season. Markelle Fultz is more of a question mark. He's been a little slower based on reports, but Jonathan Isaac did an interview about a week ago that I found, and he said that he was feeling good and he was pretty confident he was going to be ready for opening night. And people forget about Jonathan Isaac, but this was a guy that was making, I believe, his last season that he played most of it, he was all NBA defensive second team. So this is a very young guy with a lot of defensive upside. The upside to win. I mean, he's good enough. He reminds me of Bruce Bowen with the Spurs back in the day. He didn't have a ton of offensive upside, but just an elite defender. This is a guy that could make a lot of first team all defensive teams in his career. So I think that makes a big impact on the defensive side of the ball. Not a ton of wing depth behind him right now. I mean, Ross can kind of play there. They have James Ennis, who's listed as their 4 right now. Wagner can kind of play that 3 or 4. So there's not a ton behind him right now. And once again, you're relying a lot on a guy that's coming off an injury and has been out for a long time. So right off the bat, who are you relying on so they're a little weak at the wing spot and the front court in general, if we're being honest about it. Like I said, they have Ennis listed as their 4. Wagner can play the 4. And at the 5, they have Wendell Carter, solid, Mo Bamba, who's showed flashes here and there, and then Robin Lopez, who they brought in as well. So there's a little bit of potential there, and I skipped over it before, but that's because it was very not exciting. But they added Robin.
Not mad. You kind of like. So here's the.
I was like,
they got Robin Lopez, lost Otto Porter, and end of story.
And they lost Dwayne Bacon. Hey, that's their games played leader. He signed with the Knicks, like I mentioned earlier. So they lost Bacon, Otto Porter, Robin Lopez, and Mo Wagner. Don't forget Mo Wagner. They re-signed. So there's just not much to talk about there. But that's why when you look at it, I think that it's interesting. They have a lot of depth in the backcourt. In the front court and / the wing spot, there's a lot to be desired there. So I don't know. What do you think about this overall?
I mean, personally, I think they're set at center.
Yeah.
Wendell Carter showed some flash. I like Wendell Carter. We just talked about Kelly Olynyk with our previous episode. I think Robin Lopez is going to fill a similar role that Kelly Olynyk does. And Mo Bamba is not bad. I mean, he averaged 1.3 blocks last season. He's gonna fit their mold as another defender, especially at the 5. So they have decent depth at the center position, so I'm not too concerned there. But definitely at the 4, because if you have Jonathan Isaac listed as your starting 4, which I have down, I mean that's a ton to put on a guy coming off a major injury. You don't know how much you can expect out of him because you can't just throw him out there for a normal 30-plus minutes a night because he has his type of injury, it's not that difficult to re-injure. So you got to really watch it with him. They have Chuma Okeke
Yeah,
Okeke.
Okeke.
Okay. Which who was their steals leader? So, I mean, he's a name, but he's not. He's a decent piece, but that's. I mean, you're talking about you're relying day one. You're relying a lot on Franz Wagner day one to be the key 3-4 piece. Be a key 3-4 piece, because especially early on when they're ramping up Jonathan Isaac, you're gonna see a lot of Franz Wagner in the playing, which and this is the biggest, like I mentioned already. I would not be shocked if we're looking at this team as the worst offensive team in the league overall. I mean, this is why. I mean, we're I'm going to kind of get into it with my prediction, but I honestly see this team as probably going to be the worst team in the Eastern Conference. And this has nothing to do, like, I like the direction that their mindset or where they want to go, but as of right now, they don't have an offensive. They don't have, like I like calling, they don't have any reliable offensive players. Literally, their entire team is built on defense and relying on Cole Anthony to do everything offensively. That's what they're like. They have a bunch of solid players. Like they have, but like they have a. They might have the best collection of defensive players in the league, if we're being honest. You look at all these guys that can play defense, but I mean, you like defense, but even you have to score a little bit in the NBA.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
You have to be able to put up some points. And when you're talking about a team that's going to struggle to score 90 points a game, if we're being honest, I mean, it's definitely going to be a challenge for them. And I honestly, they're going to be, I mean, this is not, and this is a sound harsh, but I just think these guys, and I'm not saying they can't do it, but in order for this team to really take the next step and be a team that can challenge even for a play-in spot, some of these guys are going to have to develop an offensive game. Which, not saying it can't happen, but I'm not very optimistic on their long-term outlook, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the big advantages they'll have is they have a lot of cap flexibility in the next few years. So that's something that they're going to have to use strategically, because they're going to have a lot of young players on rookie deals. Jonathan Isaac did sign a big contract, but beyond that, there's a lot of potential to sign guys in the next few years. If I'm giving Mo Bamba more minutes. I mean, I still don't understand why he doesn't get more of a chance. In games, he averaged 30 minutes or had at least 30 minutes last year. He averaged 17 points, 16 rebounds, and 3 blocks. So he proved to be very effective when he got consistent minutes.
Unfortunately for him, Wendell Carter's there now.
I think he has more upside than Wendell Carter. I'd personally play him.
We're going to give also the Robin Lopez. I mean, I think
it's going to be tough. I agree. Yeah.
But it's going to be, again, I mean, if we're looking at all those three guys, I agree. Mo Bamba has the highest upside out of all of them. But he's basically buried as the third string center on the depth chart, which is a problem that they're going to need to find which is why I'm not entirely thrilled about the Robin Lopez signing.
Yeah,
I get it. You have to have some kind of veteran presence on a team and some kind of leadership, but with the guys with Wendell Carter has potential too. Don't get me wrong, but Robin Lopez, I think all Robin Lopez is doing is really stunting the growth of Wendell Carter and Mo Bamba. So.
And that's why it's a weird signing in general. Of course, if this was a team that was trying to win now, you would understand it because you're getting more depth in the front court. But a 33-year-old guy, I don't know. It just, like you said, they're not going anywhere this season. So why not give Mo Bamba? This could be Mo Bamba's last year potentially. They can offer him a qualifying offer after this offseason, but he could be a free agent next year. So Mo Bamba, you might as well see what you have in him before you decide whether or not you want to offer him something long term. If they don't keep him, that's a guy I'm keeping an eye out in free agency because in the right spot, he could be really effective. So I'll be interested to see what his future holds. He's still only 23, so he's still got some potential. But I agree. That's why the Robin Lopez signing to me was really odd. So let's go. You started talking a little bit about their outlook for next season. As much as I love their defensive mindset, I mean, this is a team that's going to be in the bottom two in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion, even if they're very good defensively. I mean, this team's probably going to score the least amount of points, maybe with the exception of the Thunder and the entire NBA. So it's going to be really tough, but I don't want to say that because when you're that good defensively, anything is possible. So if you see some of these young guys really develop offensively and they click, and I mean, the Knicks were terrible offensively at points last year, and they were the 4th seed in the East. And I'm not saying, I think the Knicks had some more offensive talent with Julius Randle and RJ Barrett and Derrick Rose even.
I don't think the Magic have anybody with the offensive upside of either Barrett or Randle.
Yeah, and even Derrick Rose at the end of the season was really good coming off and quickly showed some offensive ability at the end of the year. So
I don't think Orlando really has any of that.
No, yeah, and that's why a big piece of it's going to be if Cole Anthony and Jalen Suggs show to be ready to shoulder an offensive load, maybe this team surprises, but I'd be surprised if they did that in year one together. So, it's going to be tough. To me, this is more a development season to see who's a part of the long-term plan. Because when you have Fultz, Suggs, Anthony, Hampton, all these names in the backcourt, you are not going to be able to keep all of them long-term. So you need to start deciding who gels together, who fits together, who's going to be a part of the long-term puzzle here. So I think that's what this season's all about for the Magic.
Yeah, they're gonna be. I mean, I'm not mad at the direction. I think this is the necessary steps that they have to take. So it's just one of those where you're just gonna be a bottom seed. We'll have to see how these guys develop, especially offensively over the course of the season.
Yep. So, and they're going to be under a rookie head coach. So I'll be interested to see what he does and if he's.
This exactly screams playoff team.
I mean, he's going to have an opportunity because they have a very gritty team, and I think it's going to be interesting. It's one of those things where I say, even in a bad season, you want to see, are the players still there to play every single night? And they have the kind of culture that they're trying to build where these guys are going to play each and every night. But I'll be interested to see if Mosley can blend this talent together defensively, because that's really where they're going to be strong, but offensively as well. So I think all of it's just going to be interesting because they do have some potential, and this is the kind of team they're not going to lose by double figures every night. They're going to fight till the very end. I think that's the kind of team this is going to be. But yeah, offensively, a lot to be desired. So I think that's it for the Orlando Magic. Then we'll be continuing the series in the next week. We're going to post these 3. We just recorded 3, and there's going to be 1 week's worth of content, but we still have 27 more teams to go. So make sure you guys subscribe on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts, and we'll see you then.
Yep.